morning, everybody, and welcome to this new edition of 1 Hour with Europe, organized by the Antonio Brussels office. My name is Massimo Bosuoli. I am the director of the Antonio Brussels office. And today we have a very interesting topic, which is probably the hot topic of the moment in Brussels. And we have the honor and the pleasure to have with us probably the most reputed person to talk about it, which is Maive Rute, Deputy Director General of DG Grow. That, of course, is going to talk about the state of play of design of the European Competitiveness Fund. And this will give us also the possibility to look at it with maybe a little bit of challenging question to our guest. And this takes me to tell you the rules of the game. As you know, 1 Hour with Europe will give 20 minutes of presentation to our guest. And then after it, we will open the floor for your questions and answers. To intervene, please don't write your question. We are not going to read your questions. We are just giving you the right of intervention. To do it, just put your name in the Q&A box that you have under your screen in the center of the icons related to the Zoom application. Given that, I don't want to take too much time to the discussion. Maive, welcome. Thank you again for accepting our presentation. It's a very timely discussion that we are going to have. So we are really looking forward to have a beautiful and constructive exchange with you during the next hour. And I know that we are going to start with your presentation.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us on Monday morning, which here was a bit rainy, but I must say with the hot topic coming up, also the sun is coming out in Brussels. So I hope it's a good sign for the 1 hour we have ahead of us. I will walk you through a few slides on the European Competitiveness Fund proposal coming from the Commission. As you know, this is indeed a topic that is now being hotly negotiated and debated both in the Council and in the Parliament, so that at the end of the day, we are going to have Competitiveness Fund, which is fit for purpose and delivers on the future challenges. So I have a slide which, of course, says all the important points from the impact assessment, or some of the important points, not all of them. But I want to maybe highlight some keywords which you maybe don't necessarily see from here, and namely, of course, obviously, Competitiveness Fund is about competitiveness. Maybe I need to stress it very much that when we talk about the Competitiveness Fund, this is here to lay the foundations of our fitness for the future, the competitiveness of our economies. And I would very much like to stress that this is also about really reindustrialization of Europe, and not with the industries of the past, is about the industries of the future. And the word industries here is also in the broad, I would say, Anglo-Saxon maybe a way of using the word, which means really all different types of enterprises. So what do we have as a proposal? This is a proposal now presenting the full, I would say, envelope of the competitiveness together. It is about 20% or 21% of the next multi-annual financial framework budget. 451 billion, as you see on the slide. And importantly here is to understand the logic of why Commission is presenting these various funds and resources under the same umbrella of competitiveness. You will recognize here several elements which are already familiar. You would have certainly seen already Horizon Europe previously. Horizon Europe, as you see in the Commission proposal, is not fully double in size, but substantially bigger than it is currently. You will also recognize Innovation Fund, which is the higher part in the light gray. This is the Innovation Fund that gets resources through the ETS, so the emission trading system, and is particularly zooming in on decarbonization of our economies. And then you have the part which is here presented with the yellow lining around it. This is where we have the European Competitiveness Fund, and the dark yellow or almost orange slice of it is for the 11 billion of cross-cutting issues, and out of it, about 10 billion, in fact, is for the financial instruments part of the Competitiveness Fund. With this proposal, we bring this whole circle here under the same logic, so same types of principles and same objective of competitiveness, although some, of course, overarching or let's say some differences will remain, and you will see them later on also in the setup of the whole envelope. But as to the yellow lined part here, we have the Competitiveness Fund, where we bring different existing programs together and organize them in these 4 thematic windows, plus the orange part, which, as I said, is the financial instrument and budgetary guarantees. The beauty of this proposal, for those of you who are maybe less familiar with the budgetary guarantees and financial instruments, is that this really is a part which is very much leveraged by our national promotional banks, national promotional agencies, also European Investment Bank. And we see from our current results that it gets at least 10-fold leverage, but often even 15-fold leverage, which means that the 10 billion that we put there, you can easily multiply by 10 or even by 15. And this then results in real investments in real economy. And we also offer to the 4 windows here, the thematic windows, opportunities to use financial instruments and budgetary guarantees so that indeed the leverage in the market and the real investments would be higher. The key features is we look for scale. Of course, we look for impact. We want the investment journey to be seamless. And let me say that the investment journey can go both ways. It can begin from the laboratory, so it can begin from a great invention, which finally reaches the market, or as well, it can begin by a real need for a new technology, something that the competition requires in the market, and then the companies would trigger their investment journey. We would put forward a single rule book, and we will look for policy coherence. And of course, the overall budget is also looking for agility and flexibility between different budget lines. The architecture picture here is now presenting the same ECF, but now maybe a bit more kind of a zoomed in way. You see the Competitiveness Fund here now with the 4 thematic windows: clean transition, health, biotech, agriculture, bioeconomy, digital leadership, and then the large window for defense industry or defense industry space, resilience, and security. And these are the 4 thematic windows where we also then connect with the thematic part, collaborative part in the horizon. And then underneath you see the financial instrument, which serves overall competitiveness purposes, and then also project advisory and SMEs and skills. Well, I don't read out a big slide here, just to say that both the Horizon part as well as the Competitiveness Fund proper part are, of course, zooming in on strategic objectives of Europe. Both are serving our longer-term competitiveness aims. It's maybe just that the research part and the competitiveness part come from a bit different standing points, while the overall strategic aim of bettering Europe's position is the same. From here, perhaps to mention that when we talk about financial instruments, then there will be still the EIC fund as well, and we will work on strong connections between the different parts. We also will work with the scale-up fund to link it to the rest of the ECF. And maybe on the work programs, I will say a couple more words in the next slides. There have been quite a lot of questions about how universities, the research and technology organizations can give their input, or similarly, how can the industry representatives give their input to the overall competitiveness fund. And here we present it in the large kind of 3 blocks, I would say. we have at the fund level, so the European Competitiveness Fund level, strategic stakeholder board, which will bring in stakeholders and where we also, of course, will take in the input from various stakeholder communities. Here we mentioned the Observatory on Emerging Technologies, but I would like to say that this is not the only thing we do. As Commission, we always try and kind of, look at various resources that can inform our program development in the best way. Then the thematic windows will have their thematic platforms. Again, various inputs will be collected to come up with the work programs in the best way. And the advisory board for the financial instrument will also include the various implementing partners, will include member state representatives, and there is also the body that will work closely together with the European Innovation Council. Now, there are a few elements which I think will be novel to most of you, and I mentioned them here on this slide because I assume that through this 1 hour exercise, we mostly reach out to academic circles. So you may not be so familiar with the tools that come from the Competitiveness Fund proper. For example, we are aiming to have new instruments which are more industry-led or more towards real competitiveness of the economy. So here we have new instruments such as Single Market Value Chain Builder. This is an exercise to try and bring some of our industrial value chains closer to Europe and maybe more towards the partners with whom we want to work, like-minded partners, as we say nowadays. We have EU Tech Frontrunner, which I think will be very interesting for the research and technology institutes and universities, where we have the aim of supporting particularly those clusters in Europe which are, as the name says, frontrunners in some technologies to help them be even more competitive. We have them then for industrial manufacturing production in Europe, production ramp-up actions. And this is again something that I would like to say is not meant for the kind of already lost courses of the yesterday's industries, but this is very much also for upgrading to the future fit technologies and the future industries. And finally, the IPSAs here are the important projects of common European interest, where our aim is to help structure these more in a pan-European way and offer perhaps some top-ups funding for these as well. And then under the InvestEU instrument, there are various financial instruments and blending operations. We will be working also with member states, allowing them to bring in their funding to the ECF managed overall budget, which means that you will see an opportunity to bring really the innovation, technology development from the research family together with industries to the market, and the investment funding will be there as well. Cross-cutting activities, I don't spend too much time here, just to say we have foreseen also support for project development, support for SMEs, and this kind of overall business acceleration services, which should help smaller businesses to go across borders to the other member states and find business opportunities there. We also aim at having a kind of I wouldn't say necessarily the same like we have the national contact points in the horizon, but something very similar to help reach out to the member states and for businesses, be them small or big, to find the services and the various instruments that we offer. So the outreach will be there as well to the member states so that businesses can more easily use the ECF various instruments and tools. And that's where I stop so that we can have a conversation and discussions.
Thank you very much. I think it was a very interesting highlight about what you are planning to do and what you are proposing. We know perfectly that now the debate is getting very heated, and I will open the floor soon, so just let me take the privilege of being the chairman of the session to exploit my possibility to challenge Maive. The most heated question today is the way to link FP10 and DCF. Is clear. At the moment, it's pretty unclear how this is going to be done. The proposal of the parliament calls for two different programming committees. There is also this willingness to have experts in the lead of defining the topics. On my side, I know by experience that normally technology push is not the appropriate way to have a technology entering the market. And so maybe, and again, I take the full responsibility, Massimo Busuoli this is not a position of my university. Maybe it's not a right approach to make a fully free and open pillar two, but maybe a challenge-based one is a good idea, provided that the university accept the academic freedom to be in the way to solve the challenges and not consider the challenge orientation as an imposition coming from a sort of top-down approach. So how do you see this moment of exchange, and what is, of course, the Commission position is written in the proposal, but do you think we are capable then to find a compromise? Because I think that at the end, we cannot go for one or the other vision, but we will need to find a compromise one among the two.
I certainly believe that we can find a good compromise, and the compromise is being debated and discussed as we speak here. Though my colleagues are working with the Parliament and Council, and certainly in the Council and Parliament, people are also reflecting how best bring these parts of the two programs together. Maybe I'll start by what we are aiming at, and then maybe address also a bit where some of the maybe misunderstandings come from as well. And I do believe that the Parliament proposal is coming this very noble aims, but maybe there is a bit of a misreading of how we from the Commission side had proposed and what we had in mind. So first of all, the need to link research, innovation, technology development with the market is something that all of us, of course, have recognized for a long time. And you know that in fact, the Horizon family has been very vocal already for years, saying that things do not get to the market fast enough, or they are somehow kind of going around in circles. So in fact, if we look at the evaluations coming from the Horizon itself, there are very clear pointers telling us that we need to perform better. We really need to get things to the market faster and much better. And then we also have, of course, the situation in our economies. We see that we are no longer as competitive as we need to be. And we are now falling behind not only in our digital capacities vis-a-vis the US. We are now witnessing a situation whereby China is going ahead in the areas which used to be our key core areas. So we cannot just sit back and say, well, let it happen. We have to change the way we currently operate. And we, from the Commission side, we have put forward this joint up FP10 and Competitiveness Fund as a way of really changing things in the marketplace. Because how else can we actually get our industries to the new level? This needs to be through innovation, technology, and becoming really, I would say, overall fit for the future. And this, on the other side, needs also much more investments. Therefore, the Competitiveness Fund brings together the innovation and the investments. So that is where the sweet spot is. And in the proposal, you will find that we offer, some of you will show it as kind of a handshake. I shouldn't put my fingers up, I should like this. So the four thematic windows come together in a seamless kind of a journey way. And the four thematics within the thematic window have part of the funding coming from Horizon and part of it coming from the ECF. The idea from the Commission side is that there will be a work program which is common for the window, meaning that one can put forward an action, a topic that addresses a real need. You can call it a challenge, you can call it, a new technological challenge, or it can be some societal challenge. And then the solutions can be found either more from the normal FP10 or Horizon toolbox, or maybe more closer to the market from the ECF. And our idea is that we would like to give more flexibility for the project proposers to actually see what tools, what instruments fit best to address the challenge that we have. And so the common programming of the windows is one element that should help really solve the question of how the thematics of FP10 and ECF are linked. Another element is the way how we look at things. And of course, the Horizon family comes with the scientific excellence as the main criteria, understandably, because this is indeed the main purpose of the Horizon part. Now, the ECF would complement with further requests on impact, quality, delivery on the market, so that one can have this combination of scientifically sound and yet also projects which will deliver on real economy, on real market as well. So the combination is something where maybe some of the actions will be more on the research side, still some others will be more closer to market. But the flexibility is something we would like to build in. Maybe then a further element, if you ask how this link is going to be established, is what I showed in one of the slides about the input we take into the work program design. So who is going to come even with ideas or topics? And we need to be doing it in a smart way to see really where the market gaps are on one hand, but we cannot drive to the future looking into the back mirror only. And this, I think, has been also one of the shortcomings. That the way we do is we do it so far is that we take all these fantastic assessments or evaluations, and then we look what has happened in the past and try to somehow say, look, there is a gap here or gap there. And I think for the Competitiveness Fund, we want to be now so much more looking into where are the emerging trends, where is the market moving, where are our competitors moving, so that we can go and drive ahead, looking ahead, not only looking at the back mirror, what has happened in the last 5 years. So we bring these elements together, and there, the first point you made was a bit of a worry in our stakeholder communities about who is going to select the priorities. And I believe one of these questions why the Parliament has been vocal or concerned about a Commission proposal is exactly about the question how the work program priorities will be selected. And we see that the voice of the experts, the various governance bodies I presented also on the slide, is going to help set the priorities. So it's not something that will be coming from, I don't know, whatever, I don't know where then. Certainly Commission is going to use the expertise from various stakeholders, as well as the mapping of needs, mapping of emerging technologies. And then we have the work programs, and the project selection needs to be anyhow informed by quality, impact, and the capacity to deliver. So altogether, we are going to have, I think, two very nicely complementary approaches, which should help our industries, our economy in general, to become much more fit for future.
Yeah, and this basically calls my second question, and then we open the floor. It's clear that this implies a good dialogue between the stakeholders. I mean, and in the current programming period, in the current framework program, this role, with all the limitations, all the inefficiencies that have been spotted out by a document in the Commission, is played by, in most of the cases, by the so-called strategic partnerships. which plays another role, which is the role of facilitating even the dialogue between the stakeholders, somehow generating even cross-country collaboration between R&I actors and companies. So they have a double role. They are facilitators of dialogue, and at the same time, they are contributors in shaping the vision. That I agree with you, maybe in some cases is more linked to existing companies, so it's more in line with the incremental innovation approach. And so I agree with you on the fact that we need, of course, to breach a bit this barrier and try to find also the future trends. But what is, in your opinion, the perspective that these strategic partnerships are going to have? Because in the way the Commission is thinking to refine them, apparently the number is going to be reduced sensibly, which could go to a reduction of the topics or the areas that are covered. And I don't know if this is going to be positive or not for Europe, that is quite omnicomprehensive in terms of industrial sector and industrial approaches. So aren't we risking to close ourselves in comfort zones where Italians are going to collaborate with industrial companies, Germans are going to collaborate with German companies because we lack the moments of common discussions and networking?
I think you're pointing at a very important element, and that's why I wanted to bring to everybody's attention this one slide where I showed the new instruments from the European Competitiveness Fund. Because this is an area where you don't know, this is an area which you don't know yet, but which, according to our proposal, is going to help create cross-border communication between the stakeholders. And not only communication. Frankly, from my point of view, one of the criticism that I have to our current programs is that we have created, with good intentions, we have created often projects or instruments which end up in very, very large meetings with I don't know how many stakeholders, where it's difficult to find your common thread, or where the focus is not so clear, where, yes, it's nice to meet and talk and, have kind of a nice conversation, and everybody likes to travel within Europe, but we would like to have a much more targeted and actually meaningful collaboration where the universities, institutes, industries, for my sake also member states, promotional agencies come together around a clear aim, something they want to arrive or solve together. And that's where some of these new instruments which we are proposing should actually help us with that. Let me mention again the IPCEIs, the important project of common European interest. These are, by the very nature, already cross-border things, and they are thematic. We have a few of them already existing, be it in batteries, be it in hydrogen, but we have another nice pipeline coming up. And our thinking is that so far, the instrument has been a bit too limited to only allowing member states to offer state aid. But we would like this to be now much more also kind of a technology development driven and cross-border driven exercise. And that is where our additional top-ups come. And I personally think that by offering a top-up funding to, for example, IPCEIs, this could have a structuring effect to the member states' funding. The same way like we have seen the structuring effect of the Horizon. So the Horizon current thematic logic is very clearly having a structuring effect on the member states' research and technology and innovation funding. And we think that with the ECF, similarly, we would trigger also funding from the member states. So the IPCEIs is one way of actually reaching across borders and making sure that things do not stay only within the member states' borders. But similarly, if we look at the technology frontrunners, we are thinking that this shouldn't be only a kind of a local kind of exercise. It needs to have, again, a broader impact. And similarly, the single market value chain builder should be, as the name says, something that goes beyond just borders of one member state. So these new instruments as well are there to help actually have this pan-European element, which otherwise maybe doesn't come so naturally. And one thing that you maybe don't see necessarily from the horizontal layer we are already working a lot with clusters. And clusters, again, are not just local. They often either thematic, so can be pan-European, some of them are more maybe regional, but clusters policy is another one which we would like to strengthen under the ECF, because there we see a great opportunity to link again from industry to the research family and back again, so that the clusters would be also not simply matchmaking for business opportunities, but very much also technology opportunities. So altogether, I think from the ECF family, there will be new instruments for exactly this meaningful and focused collaboration. And from the Horizon part or FP10 part, I understand my colleagues in DG Research are revising the current partnerships. They are revising it on maybe 2 or 3 ways, looking first at the different types of partnerships. Do we need to keep all the different types, or maybe some of them can be brought together under the same logic? And they're also looking at the number of partnerships, maybe a bit too many, so they're looking at it. And indeed, then also how broad or how narrow, or narrow is maybe a bit bad word, but how broad or how focused they should be. So on the partnerships, we expect some new reflections, but overall to say our European interest is to have, of course, cross-border approach.
Thank you very much. Okay, we still have 30 minutes, so we would like to accommodate as many questions as possible. So I kindly ask the one which are going to be called to be short in putting the question. The first one I see we are going to invite is a good friend, Olga Vessels. So Olga, if you are going to accept our invitation to intervene, I kindly ask you to open your camera and microphone and challenge our guest directly.
Shall we take this one by one, or do you want several questions to?
As you prefer. What do you prefer? You would like to have?
I just realized we have
23. We have 23 questions, and we have reached, I think, more than 460 connected persons. So we do our best.
So for my sake, we can take 2 or 3, and then I try and.
Okay, then Olga, can you are you online? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Massimo, for organizing this. And thank you so much for the openness on the European Competitiveness Fund. Obviously, there's a high interest among the academic community. I have actually a question on another European program, Erasmus Plus, and how this is contributing to competitiveness in your view. So I saw in your slides, it's not part of the Competitiveness Fund budget, but of course, it's all about skills and competence development, and that's what Europe needs to be competitive. And for example, the proposed scholarships in strategic fields are specific responding to European competitiveness needs. And of course, there are the European Universities Alliances. Half of Europe's higher education institutions is part of this initiative. Half of European students are part of this initiative. It's mentioned in the legal base. So if you could say some words about the alliances, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olga, for your very important question, especially for universities and also companies, because they can benefit of it. The next one to intervene is Till Haker, if I read correctly, because my eyes are not as good as they were in the past.
Till Eichler.
Till Eichler, yeah. Okay, thank you for helping me. Your eyes are better than mine, it looks like, yeah. Till, you are going to be invited. Then when ready, please intervene. Just the technical time to give you the floor. Accept the invitation and just open the camera and ask your questions. Introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, I just joined as a panelist. My name is Till Eichler. I work for Transport and Environment. We are a think tank NGO working on the decarbonization of transport, and we are following with a lot of interest the current debate on the European Competitiveness Fund. Thank you so much for organizing this exchange. I think it was already super helpful. And I would like to come back to the question that you briefly touched on, and that is the question of prioritization. Because if we look at I think we have the challenge of bringing FP10 and ECF together, which have different logics to some extent, but we also have the challenge that we have a long list of objectives. So the Commission did a great job in not forgetting any key issue. However, we have a limited budget, and I would like to come back to the question, maybe in more concrete terms, how do you see prioritization moving forward, especially when we talk about the scaling up, not about financial research, but more like the scaling up part of the ECF. And we as organization were hoping to get some clarity about this also from the competitiveness coordination tool, which we have not heard anything about. So it would be great if you could also mention about the timeline there. Is it still coming? Will it play a role for the ECF? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We take another one and then we replay. So we have Gerard de Guillou, which looks French name, but probably is going to confirm us the origins, even if it is from Netherlands. Gerard, are you with us?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, probably is
Yes.
Gerard.
Come on. Give me a sec to activate the camera.
Yeah, please.
Good morning. Thank you very much for organizing this. My name is Jero. I'm a EU manager for strategy and policy at TNO, the Dutch Institute. And you guessed it right, I'm French. Nevertheless, I work for a Dutch organization. Thank you very much for this presentation. That was very insightful. Actually, if I may, I would like to ask a question which is a bit more down the road, which is about the implementations about it. You mentioned in your slide the single rule book. And my question is about that. And I was wondering if you can maybe give us a little bit more insight about this. Currently, in this current MFF, we have a single rule book between different programs. It's the model grant agreement with different subchapters and different articles that can be provisions according to the programs itself. You can look at the model grant agreement. It's very, very long, actually. Would it be a similar approach? Will it be similar for what's coming in next? And I guess we are very early for this kind of questions, but would you be able to share maybe some timelines when we will be able to look at this so that we also can get ready us as the ecosystems for the change that will come? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan, three questions.
Yes,
very nice questions, I will say.
And I think it's a good approach. We take three so that we can cover.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
we go in
pretty much
this
the line of questions. Let me go along the line of the questions proposed. On the Erasmus Plus, I'm not sure I can really give you much further details because this is not directly in DG Grow's line of responsibility. But I can only agree with you that the skills are an important part of our competitiveness of the future. So in the horizontal part of the ECF, we also mention that skills should be covered, but we are actually trying to see the skills element more in the thematics of the 4 windows. And you are familiar that, for example, under the current industrial policy, we are doing quite substantial work on so-called academies for skills development. So our interest is to see also for the future how this type of specific skills development instruments could continue. We are working closely with DG Employment on this, and Erasmus Plus, I think, is a tool that is much valued and will be continued as well. On the university alliances, I would rather leave it to colleagues who are really more familiar with the matter. I personally know that this has been a very, should I say, kind of a successful, at least for some of the participating universities, a successful exercise. I am myself in the university board of Tallinn University of Technology, and they praise this endeavor. So as to the future of this, let me leave it rather to other people who are more familiar on this front. Now on Competitiveness Fund, prioritization, and how the Commission intends to take it forward. This is, of course, a very central question of how the new fund will operate. I think what might help all of us to see how the new thing will function is, of course, a current exercise that is run under the horizon. We have the current practice whereby there will be a longer term, I would say, a strategic objective setting, and then annual work programs. Now, in the context of the ECF, our plan is to have a bit lighter exercise, maybe less detailed work programs, but we nevertheless, of course, will need also a multi-annual time horizon. We currently are still discussing whether this multi-annual would need to be for the full program of 7 years. For example, in the defense and space, they are interested in keeping 7 years. Also because, of course, investments are major, and they are interested in kind of proposing 7 years priorities or goals of the program, and then solving it year by year with annual work programs. So we will have a duration, kind of a different durations perhaps, but we certainly want to set strategic objectives and then work it through. As you have seen it happening in the Horizon family, you have the program level objectives, and then these annual work programs, you work it through so that all the key objectives will be covered. Now, in the financial instruments, the 10 billion which I showed, this is going to run a bit differently. This will be more on kind of overall competitiveness delivery, and there you don't see such so clearly thematic work program annually, but it's more maybe project-based, plus the thematic part which comes from the thematic windows if they decide to use financial instruments as well. Now, in addition, there is an announcement for competitiveness coordination tool, and this competitiveness coordination tool is meant, as the name says, to coordinate. Now, what needs to be coordinated? There is a coordination exercise between the national envelopes from the EU budget, so the so-called partnerships from EU budget. If you look at the Commission proposal for the next MFF, you see that there is, of course, what we currently know as cohesion policy. So between EU level funding, there is a coordination needed, but then also between EU level and national level. So the competitiveness coordination tool is going to be an exercise where, for limited number of strategically important areas, we would apply a kind of this extra coordination, I would say, kind of a capacity or exercise. And this is not going to be for all and everything. This needs to be only applied for areas where such coordination would add value. And I mean, we are currently having pilots where we look into questions such as, I don't know, charging stations, I think, for the trucks, so electric vehicles, charging stations. So this type of exercises where some of the funding comes from member states, where you also have technology compatibility questions that need to be solved. So again, the competitiveness coordination tool will be looking at policy coordination and financial instruments coordination for selected number of priorities and not for everything. On single rule book, as the name says, idea is to have some agreed principles. Not every detail will be lined out precisely in the single rule book. But for example, there are questions which are more cross-cutting. Climate aims, for example, how do we treat the climate and decarbonization targets, or environmental questions, and then also some of the principles of Commission working with implementing partners. So the single rule book will look into some cross-cutting elements, and where necessary will also modernize and simplify these grant agreements. But we are also very mindful that we need to be maintaining certain continuity between the MFF, so between the current and the next implementing period. And we are trying to find a good balance between modernizing and changing and simplifying while maintaining also the implementation capacity, which is often based on our current models. So therefore, this is a delicate discussion to allow for simplification to happen while we are maintaining our capacity to implement.
Because sometimes simplification is complication. But yeah, we appreciate the effort the Commission is doing to to try to simplify a world that is pretty complex. We are going to give the floor to the next three. So all the three next speakers are going to have the possibility to intervene, but they kindly ask you to intervene when I will call your name. So we're going to invite with us Craig Nicholson, Sho Cheetle, Dominguez Benetton, and Richard Tuff. So you're going to be invited all the three, but the first one to intervene will be Craig Nicholson. So Craig, whenever you're ready, please ask your question and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm from Research Professional News, so I'm a journalist. I'd like to ask you to please elaborate on two things that you said earlier. One was that you thought there had been some misunderstanding by stakeholders in the Parliament of the links with Horizon. So I hoped you could please explain what you think has been misunderstood. And you said that you think you could certainly see a compromise being reached, which kind of implies that the Commission might move as well. So could you please maybe say where the Commission might move relative to the proposal it put out based on what it's heard since then? Thank you.
Then Xochitl, if I understand correctly the name, your question.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to pose a question. And I am from Equinor, but I'm based in Belgium as a European Policy Advisor for Research and Innovation. And my question goes more towards some controversies between the speech that you use here, more towards general industry support against some of the narrative currently on the Parliament rapporteur speech, where they talk about a more disruption first narrative with a DARPA kind of program creation and the extent in which that is being put forward, which would decrease substantially the actually available budget to effectively deploy scale up or large industry projects. If you could comment on the position of the Commission on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. Then Richard Tuff, a friend of our format.
Thank you.
Hello, Richard.
Thanks. Richard Tuff's a friend of Smart Special. I'll be brief because part of my question has in a way been answered. It was on the policy coordination tool. But my key question was how you will use the policy coordination tool, which remains a bit vague, on how you will link to this sort of top-down directionality, in a way, EU smart specialization, but with a bottom-up regional place-based strategies. And that's something we haven't mentioned a lot, the role of the regions today. So that's a quick question. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So 3 challenging questions for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. But of course, you're asking questions which cannot be responded to yet, as we are in the middle of negotiations. So obviously, things are still moving. What I can say about what I think is a misunderstanding, of course, the Parliament and rapporteurs will have their own view. So my personal view is that the misunderstanding is about the priority setting that Commission intends to have in the ECF. And that is where perhaps some of the misunderstanding stems from. We are not designing ECF, which would be all just top-down kind of, I don't know what and who then deciding. But as I described here, the ECF will take input from the studies of the landscape where we currently operate. We will look into the future needs of our economies. We will try and, of course, the best way integrate what the research and industrial communities will tell us, and member states will have a say as well. So if you go back and look at the slides I have shown on the various coordination and advisory and input giving bodies and the kind of the governance, if you wish, you will see that we intend to take inputs from really broad range of stakeholders, and there will be opportunities through the thematics also to set more concrete topics for the work programs under ECF. Now, compromise has always been found. Who will move? This is matter of negotiation, so I can't say that it's necessarily the Commission. We believe we have put forward a very good proposal with good analysis and good intentions that will be delivering on our competitiveness needs. So the negotiations are ongoing, and let us see what comes. But I repeat that the reasons why we put forward the proposal where the Horizon and ECF are together is exactly because we believe that the current system is not delivering well enough. So if we then look into what the future needs are, our first plea is to see the value of this linked up proposal. Again, on these DARPA-like initiatives, it's probably better if Parliament themselves would explain what they are aiming at. My understanding or my reading of it is that there is a strong push to do exactly what we aim to do under the ECF, to have more targeted and really, if you wish, kind of industry-driven, the challenge-driven delivery. So let's see what comes of the overall discussions. But again, my understanding is that the Parliament is pointing at something that is currently not delivered well enough. Exactly kind of breakthrough technologies and lifting European economy to the next level of competitiveness. So perhaps if you look at the aim of their proposal, this is very nicely in line with what we aim at also under the ECF. Now, the last question about the competitiveness coordination tool, I think you are maybe misreading again what is the role or what is the scope of the competitiveness coordination tool. As I said, it is going to be a light exercise of a rather targeted nature on areas where we believe this would add value. And it is not going to be an exercise where all and every strategic priority of the ECF is going to be handled. So therefore, at least the way we are currently informed and that we see it, we don't intend to use it for all priorities in the ECF. The role of regions, if we think in terms of, again, priority setting, member states are around the table, industries are around the table, and can, of course, present also the views of what is needed. So that's how far I can take it now.
Interesting, this final question that clarifies a lot of questions that are around. So thank you very much. We are going to take the next batch of three: Monica Dittel, Dimitri Korpakis, a former colleague, and of you, and Mr. Marks. So Monica, I know that you put three questions, but I kindly ask you to choose one because of time. Monica, are you with us? Monica, can you open your microphone and camera? Because we noticed that you have accepted our invitation. I assume there are some technical issues. So we switch to Dimitri while Monica is trying to fix her problems. Dimitri?
Hello, good morning.
Hello,
I'm
good
very
morning.
happy to see Maite again. And thank you for a very interesting presentation. I work also with Richard Tubbs, so a lot of what he asked you have covered. But I wanted to stress the importance of coordinating with the NRPP part. It's no longer cohesion policy because, as everybody knows, it will be much wider because we will have in one national program what was before the structural funds plus the common agricultural policy and a few other things. So they are also extremely important for competitiveness, as we have seen from Draghi and Letta reports, in particular Letta, where he stressed the famous right to stay in the region. So the question is how we are going to coordinate the competitiveness fund with the NRPPs. And we thought probably that the competitiveness coordination tool would be a good opportunity. Maybe you can think about this, collectively again, because the capabilities of places are extremely critical to any success of any industrial policy. And you have talked about something that I liked very much, a value chain builder. So that we need really a value chain builder at European level. You talked also about clusters, which is very important. So all this cannot ignore the NRPPs and in principle, the prioritization function that we have everybody learned to work now on at European level, either at national or regional level, which is smart specialization. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri. And Monica, have you solved your technical problems? No? Then Mr. Marks.
Hello, thank you. I had a question in the beginning about the list or structure of the key tools to be used by the ECF, by the European Competitiveness Fund. You already talked about some. You talked about IPCI, clusters, different types of work program, the annual, the short-term, annual and the multi-year program, and the competitiveness coordination tool. I think it would be really great for us to see some sort of logical structure of these tools presented against the key strategic purposes of the fund, because that would really make a great understanding, and it would make it probably even more easier than to think about the individual problems like the relationship with the horizon or the regions, or so that would be really helpful. I mean, this is my suggestion. I don't know, maybe it's somewhere I didn't see it, but it would be really great if we can see even just the ideas of the Commission on that scale. Thanks a lot. But I must say the presentation you gave was really, really great. It really helped me a lot to get an understanding of the logic. Thank you.
Meanwhile, we have substituted the third speaker. We are inviting Mr. Tartalos Odysseas. My culture about Greek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Odysseas Kartalos. Well, V, C for V, but okay. I come from the consulting part of European support. So thanks for this organization, and thanks to Maive for this very interesting presentation. My questions deal with how can one size the actions with ESF. And first of all, what will be a typical volume of funding? Then what kind of actions would there be to be supported? Would it be something like an enlarged EIC accelerator? Would it be some research, some demonstration, some globalization, I suppose? There is how it will look like. And lastly, who will evaluate applications? Will the Commission train a new generation of evaluators? Thank you.
Thank you. I think this will be the last batch of questions because we are approaching the end of our hour. And
yes, thank you very much. But these are, I think, very, very pertinent, good questions. And I hope they will help indeed everybody in the virtual room to understand what our intentions are. First, on the links between the national, we call them now partnerships, the NRPs, which is the envelope in the MFF budget where the current cohesion funding and also agriculture and whatever will come together. So this is being, of course, also debated and negotiated, but there will be some sort of on NRP for member states, and indeed there the competitiveness questions will also be tackled. So my view is that when we talk about this coherence, there will be both elements from top down and bottom up. And let me repeat again, we do not foresee any China-like central planning. And I think I need to kind of keep repeating it because I hear it now from all these meetings. I don't know where, and somebody is presenting this ECF proposal as if it would be kind of total Commission running the show. I don't, at least currently, see that happening, and I don't think this would be anyhow helpful for us. What we rather see is that through these tools that I already mentioned, for example, these IPCEIs. Member states, they know where they want to invest. And this is where the regional element comes into. Do they want to invest into hydrogen? Do they want to invest into electric vehicles? Do they want to invest in biotechnology? All of these are areas where we currently have IPCEIs, either already there or being developed. And these IPCEIs absolutely need to have also technology and innovation as part of the story. Otherwise, why do it? And there, in addition, this is kind of, if you wish, bottom up. This comes from the member states, comes from the regions, and we aim at helping this pan-European approach by additional funding. And the Commission role is to see that these proposals for new IPCEIs, if they come from member states, that they should not be too small, like only, I don't know, 2 countries coordinating, or not only 2 countries working together, but a bit bigger, so that we have really a more pan-European approach, and that there will be also this innovative technology component there. So with this top-up, we will indeed make sure that, for example, these IPCEIs would be kind of a structuring instrument whereby we have nicely this bottom-up and, if you wish, top-down priority setting coming together. So that's one way of arriving there. Then indeed this competitiveness coordination tool will have some role, but it's just one among others. And I do believe that what I mentioned earlier about our clusters policy, about our value chain builder as a new instrument, all of these are actually opportunities for decentralized, close to the real world decision-making and priority setting. Because as best as we want to arrive at our priority setting here in Brussels, I mean, people in the places where you always have very good information. You have your good views of where the competition currently is, and you can come with proposals as well. So I see a strong element of bottom-up initiative taking and kind of well-informed decisions for investments, where then the policy coordination would come from the central ECF level. Then on the implementation and where will you actually find the money? This is maybe what these last 2 questions were about. When we talk about grants, the grants are going to be, again, channeled through the vehicles that are already familiar to you. We are looking at our agencies as one vehicle of delivery. We are then going to set up something that is similar to the national contact points so that you would know where to turn to. And then the financial instruments, budgetary guarantees, will be directed through the relevant implementing partners like European Investment Bank, like Nordic Investment Bank, European Investment Fund, and various national promotional banks as well. And we also reach out to actually equity, venture capital promoters or funds through our EIF. So it's a broad range of implementing partners, but you will already recognize several of them because we are building on existing structures and then creating some further outreach opportunities through these ECF, whatever modalities we are going to create, similar to national contact points in the member states.
Is that clear, Maive? Thank you very much for your willingness to share and be challenged by our audience. Allow me just a final question that probably will imply a short answer. Will there be space also for universities in the ECF or not?
Absolutely. And this is maybe one of the main things I should have said in the beginning. Please apply. Once our work programs are out there, the idea is that also from the ECF side, there will be a need for researchers to be part of the new consortia, the programs that they are going to be put forward. So all I can see is that the opportunities will actually enlarge for the research family to be involved.
And with this promising word also for the university sector, we close this appointment of On Hour with Europe. We received the slides. We are free to share. Yeah, okay. And we have recorded, so it will be also published on our YouTube channel. Say that, stay in touch. We are going to announce the next appointment as soon as we will have agreed with the next speaker. And for the rest, wishing you an excellent Easter week that is coming.
Thank you very much.